2024 was a crazy year. It was full of pain, rejection, hardship, and so many other horrible emotions. But what I will tell you is, despite all that hardship, I came out the end a stronger person. And because of the actions I took in the past, I set myself up for this year, and not only for this year, but for the rest of my life, because I now have skills that will only continue to compound. So I'm so grateful to my past self for putting me through the pain that I had to face to become the person that you're now seeing. But this isn't about me. What I want to tell you is these are just some of the life lessons I learned this year, and I hope that when you're watching this video, you can maybe get one gold nugget that you'll be able to carry with you for the rest of your life. So without further ado, first things first, and that is the first lesson I learned, is stop caring about rejection. A little about me. For pretty much for my entire life, I always was seeking other people's approval. I always cared what they thought about me so much. It would literally be to the point where I would literally be walking on eggshells, even though I didn't like the person, just because I wanted their approval. But what I learned from door-to-door sales is people aren't going to like you literally just because of who you are. For example, I can knock on someone's door, literally do nothing to them. I never said anything mean to them or anything, right? I just knock on their door. They come out and they're on 1,000. They are enraged. Why? Because there's something wrong with them internally, right? Because if you really think about it logically, if we're just looking at it from, a Christian perspective, right? The golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. That's most people tend to follow that, right? So for someone to come outside and I've done nothing to them, for them to be upset really doesn't make sense. Well, I guess you can argue I knock on their door, but if we're thinking about it like really holistically, if someone doesn't do anything to you to really cause you great pain and suffering, there really is no reason to treat them unfairly. So when someone treats you unfairly, that's just a sign of how they're feeling internally. So when that happens to you, you can't take it personally. And the way I see it is, throughout life, people are always going to not like you. It's just the way humans are. Because what's normal in one society is not normal in another. So as a reality, there are always going to be people that don't like you, and that's okay. And just learning to accept that is so liberating. I actually would encourage you to act like yourself. I know it sounds so cliche. Everyone's like, just be yourself. But seriously, once you start to truly act like yourself, you unlock this new level of freedom and confidence because you realize that you don't have to pretend to be something that you aren't. And I'm telling you, that's so liberating. And if you want to learn more about specifically how I got over rejection, I made a video about it. So you can find it somewhere on my channel, and I'll have it in the link in script. But this is another thing. Oh my goodness, I really learned this from door-to-door sales. Door-to-door sales taught me so many things. Don't get me wrong, I hated every second, but I learned so much. And that is the second thing, and that is he who angers you conquers you. That's from Elizabeth Kenny. So basically, what I realized is I think it was a couple years ago, I ended up getting into an altercation, and things could have went really badly. And I would say it was probably my lowest low in my point of life. And I promised on that day after that happened, I would never let anyone agitate me so much to the point where I risk losing everything that I worked for. Because no one is worth that. Because literally in 1 second, I could have lost everything that I worked for these past 6, 7 years. And it's not worth it. So seriously, I really learned that too. And especially during door to door, when I was dealing with hostile people, I just remember that. He who angers you conquers you. And I will not allow anyone to conquer me. Master your mind. From there, I learned this one. This one was a tough one to learn. That is, if a relationship ends, there's a reason. This could be a love relationship. This could be a relationship with a family member, a friend, what have you. Any form of relationship between a person and a person. The way I see it is, if a relationship ends, first thing I do is I take a look in the mirror and, okay, I ask myself, okay, why did this end? Did this have to do with me at all? What could I have done better? And then from there, I then work on the things I could have done better to become a better person. Now, after that, I then look at them and say, okay, what are the pros of this relationship ending? What are the cons? What I found is usually, if a relationship ends, there's going to be more cons than pros. And therefore, if there's more cons, you should probably just start a clean slate, move on to the next person. And I know that may sound harsh. I'm not saying this is for everybody. I'm just saying this is what I found best. Because what I found at this point is I know what makes me upset. And sure, we can get in a whole debate on, well, you should let things bother you. Okay, whatever, they do. That's the reality. So what I learned is I'm not even gonna let anyone trigger me. So people that are the kind of people that trigger me, I just cut them out of my life. Sure, it sounds harsh, I'm being honest. Now, for this one, for those enduring sales, and that is you're capable of enduring. This lesson I didn't really learn this year, but this year I was reminded about it because just fast forward, okay? So if you go in the past, I wrestled. I have an entire video about all the life lessons I learned from wrestling. Wrestling, one of the best things that ever happened to me. Long story short, when I was in wrestling, I'll give you the short version. I went from being the worst ever, to before I left, uh, I was like one of the best within my section, right? So what that taught me is if I just stick with something, I will be amazing. And no one can take that away from me, even though it was extremely hard. Because what I taught is if you just endure, if you just continue to show up and you continue to improve over a long term, it's going to have an exponential effect. So it's going to look like one day you're just the best, but no one saw all the suffering that you had to go through to get there. And even now, I promise you, the next 10 years, people will be coming back like, oh my God, Aaron has all these subscribers, but they're not going to be looking at this stuff when I was only getting 100 and something like that. And before this videos were averaging 100, I was getting 10, 5, even 0. Everyone starts from somewhere, and I think that's just a nice reminder. Now, to fast forward back in 2024, I was reminded that I was capable of enduring. I didn't know how much money I was going to make when I first got into door sales, but I did know this. I promised myself that no matter what happened, I was not going to quit that summer. And guess what? I did not quit that summer. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because the reason why I said I was capable of enduring more is because for years, when I was 16, I thought about getting into door-to-door sales for the first time ever. That's when I had a cart cleaning business. And I did. But guess what? I didn't stick with it. I think I was like 16 or 17. I don't remember. And anyways, I did, but I quit because I didn't like the way people made me feel. Because the rejection, I didn't build that muscle yet. So I did it a little bit for a day. You know, I got a shotgun pulled on me once. Then I took a couple weeks off. Then I went back to it, got a couple appointments, and it went well, made some sales, but I stopped because I just didn't like being uncomfortable. But then what I realized is if I want to grow as a business owner and as a person, I'm going to have to learn how to get over this feeling of rejection. So I figured, well, damn, what better way to do it than to sell door-to-door solar panels? And that's exactly what I did. And if you want to know the full story, this is an image of what the article looks like. You can click on it, link will be in the description. You can read it. That's what I learned about capable of enduring. Because I'm telling you, so many days I thought about quitting because just it was very difficult for me. I'm not gonna lie. And it was difficult for the people I was around, but that environment was unlike anything I've ever experienced in being fully transparent, and it really was amazing. And I'm really grateful for it, having lived through that. But the fifth thing is write what you want out of life, then work backwards. Popularized by Charlie Munger. It's called like reverted thinking. So basically, the idea is think of everything. It's a lot easier to think about the negative things. So first, think about how you don't want your life to look. Then do the opposite of all those things. And then you can figure out how to live the perfect life to get what you want. So to go back to that point, what I realized is I started to really take a deep dive and ask myself, okay, what are the things I want in life? I wrote down all the things I want out of life. I then started to go do reverse thinking. I'm like, okay, well, if I want to achieve this, what is the skill I'm going to need to be able to do that? Okay, so then what's a skill that I need in order to get that skill? And then I started to get all these things. And then I realized for me at this point, if I really want to get to where I want to go, I'm going to have to get really good at sales, developing product, managing people, marketing, and so on and so on, copywriting. All these things are just branches of each other. But my point is, if you can reverse engineer where you want to go, you can figure out what it exactly is you have to do in order to get there. And I'm telling you, right now, the path that I've been taking, I am on perfect track to get to where I want to go. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Real quick metaphor, then I promise I'll move on. But one of my mentors told me this. I don't remember the exact quote, but basically, It's just about being aimless. You know, with many people, for example, you would never go on a boat with no paddles because then you would have no control where you go. You would literally just be going with the motion of the water. But yet, so many people go through life in that same exact manner. They're just going throughout life, just letting life take them where they want. Because this is the reality, guys. You can plan all you want, but you have no idea where life's going to take you. But you can make a projection, an educated guess, a hypothesis, if you will. You can figure out, okay, what is most likely what I want to achieve, and then what is most likely going to get me there. And then from there, you then start to make adjustments as you start to plan. The really kind of build off of the last point, and that is life is all about the foundation. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I have a lot of friends that are making more money than me in the short term. And the reason why I say in the short term is because they're thinking about, years, and I'm thinking in decades. Because the reality is, I can start a business right now, and I know with my current skill set how much revenue and profit I can make per month. But the reality is, I could do that now, but then I'll be being short-sighted because the reality is, if I were to just work for myself now, I'll be missing out on all that learning that could be done. Because I'm telling you, I've learned 10 times more from having a sales job for an online business and learning how every single aspect of their business works, and they're doing millions of dollars a year, opposed to when I was just doing my own thing. Because why try to reinvent the wheel if someone already reinvented the wheel? Because all I have to do is just copy exactly what they're doing for my specific thing. And I'm telling you, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm continuing to learn, making decent money. And then from there, I'm reinvesting every single dollar I get back into my skill, back into my skills. Because the more skilled I become, the more money I'll be able to generate. And I'm talking about money just because money is a measuring stick of success in our society. But the reality is, it's not just about the money, but money is just usually a measuring stick of how much value you provide. Now, we can argue about this all day. I'm not here to bring that up. I'm just talking about this from my perspective, okay? But life is all about the foundation. What I learned is don't take shortcuts, because if you take a shortcut, my man, it will come back and bite you in the ass. I'm telling you, because it happened to me. And I said, you know what? Let me just chill out. Let me just build a giant foundation. So then from there, one day my pyramid will be humongous. Because you think about this, right? You have a pyramid, right? In order to build a pyramid, you have to have you have to have a foundation. Now, the foundation, how big you want it to be, varies from person to person. Right now, I would say my foundation is like this. So I can build a pyramid this high. But if I just get a little bit more skills, my foundation can be this big, and it can be this high. But if I wait even longer, my foundation can be this big, and it can be this high, and so on and so on. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And my friend, just wait till you see how big this stuff is about to be. But that's for the next couple of years. This one makes me really excited because it's so true. Everything you want is one connection away. I believe I heard this from, can't remember the guy's name, the guy that owns Valuetainment. You know the guy I've seen. I can't remember his name right now. I'm drawing a blank. I think it's Patrick. Anyway, the guy that owns Valuetainment. I was watching one of his videos one day, and he was saying how everything you want is one connection away. He was talking about how when he was in, I believe it was real estate, he was just really just trying to meet everybody that he could. And then I think one day he said he got his first ever $1 million deal literally by getting a handshake. When I was reading Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie basically says the same thing. Basically, just get people to like you, and then from there, they will just want to do more for you simply because they like you. Right? It makes sense logically. And this year, I do what I always do. I value people more than anything. So whenever I join a new company, I try to become friends with everybody, because what I learned is it's a win-win. I have more people around me that are successful, so when I need help with something, I can go out to them. And also the inverse is true. I provide value to them, help them out. They then see me as a valuable asset. So when I have a little problem, I can cash in. Now, I know that sounds transactional, and it might be, but that is the reality. Humans value people based off what they do for them. It's the reality. It's literally simple economics. It's a value exchange. And that's all a friendship truly is, if you were to break it down to the ridiculous. It doesn't even have to be financial. There's other forms of transactions. It can be emotions. That's a conversation for a different day. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because really everything took off for me really this year. I ended up meeting this one guy at one of my companies that I was closing for, and he ended up teaching me, number one, how to sell properly. No one actually ever taught me how to sell. I really know how to close deals now. And then he also taught me how to trade. And I'm telling you, since I learned how to trade, my God, I have never. The level of money that I made from trading is literally uncomprehendable. Last month, I made more money in one day than I made the month before that. Which, when that happened, I was like, holy mother of God. Now, that's just something I'm going to be going in to more detail on another day. But if you want to know more about that, just send me a message on Instagram. Just say the word trading, and then we can talk about that. But seriously, guys, everything you could ever want is one contact away. So just to go a little bit on how to meet people, what I highly encourage you to do is, number one, figure out who are the kind of people you want to attract. And then number two, go to where those people are. Then number three, befriend those people. Literally just start up a conversation with them. Try to help them in any way that you possibly can. Because what happens is you help people, they want to help you. It's called the rule of reciprocity. Great book called Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. He goes into this entire topic and way more. If you want to know how to get things out of life, if you want to know how to get what you want out of life and create win-win scenarios, you gotta read that book. It's one of the best books of all time when it comes to persuasion. This one is gonna be very controversial. Quick disclaimer before I say this: this is not like concrete and stone. This is just what I have found to be the most true for me. So before you go down and commenting, oh my God, how could you say that? This is from my perspective. Okay. So what I found is chasing happiness is a losing battle. The reason why I say that is because if you were to really ask someone, well, I just want to be happy. Okay, what does that mean exactly? Most people that say, I don't know, I just want my kids to love me. I want to make more money. I don't like the way my body looks. Blah 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 blah. Really, what's usually tied to happiness is wants. It's something that you want. You are striving for a desire, but you can't get to that desire because there are roadblocks in the way that are preventing you from being able to get there. So I don't remember, one of my mentors ended up telling me that basically the recipe for happiness is basically wants. I think it's desires minus needs, something like that. I don't remember exactly what the equation was. But simply put, if you want more things, but you don't have them, you're going to be unhappy. If you want less, you're probably going to be more happy, typically. But what I found is a better measurement, instead of trying to chase happiness, because happiness is so wishy-washy. And the reason why I say that is because, for example, me, I was unhappy when I didn't have a certain amount of money. I made that money. Then guess what? I was happy for all of a season. And then it becomes a new normal. And then it stops making you happy. And then you go back to baseline. Versus if you just focus on the inverse, which is just focusing on the actual act of just striving for that thing. As one could say, you have to fall in love with the process. I think that's a load of crap. I think you need to find a purpose that drives you and keep on going towards that. Make it something so big that you'll just keep on going. And then once you get that purpose, once you hit your end goal, it's just something else. To me, I'd much rather be chasing something my entire life because it gives me a reason to live. Like the idea of trying to become a millionaire is not really about the money, because once I get a million, it's going to be something else. But it's just the action that I take every day to get closer to that million or would bring me joy and satisfaction, because I know damn well that my character is being hardened. I'm becoming a better person. I am more equipped. I'm more intelligent. I am better overall. And that is what's worth it. Drugs and money will never fill the void. I kind of hinted on this earlier, but for the longest time, I thought once I achieved, XYZ, that would make me happy. But when I got it, still wasn't fulfilled. Right? Now, drugs, I'm not going to sit here and say on camera, oh yeah, I've done all these crazy drugs. I haven't done drugs. Okay. So, as far as that, I'm just speaking from the people I've seen around me. A lot of people around me that do drugs, rather it be, something as innocent as a little bit of the green plant or something as hard as the white, the white flower. Okay. Usually people are running away from something. But what I learned is there is no substance, there is no thing that will bring you happiness, will really fill the void, like that feeling of emptiness long term. What I learned is the best way to fill that void is to work on oneself, or whatever that means for you. Figure out what it is that you feel like you need to change, and the chances are, if you fix that thing, you'll probably start to feel better internally. Because what I notice is a lot of times the reason why people are unhappy is not because they don't know what to do, but rather because they're not doing it. Since they're not doing what they need to do, they start to have this less confidence, which then makes them feel shame in themselves, which then results in a negative spiral of horrible emotions. So, when it comes to emotions, what's in the 9th lesson I learned, the 10th lesson I learned, and that is the obstacle is the way. From the man, the myth, the legend, from Marcus Aurelius himself. The obstacle is the way. Every challenge is an opportunity in disguise. When something bad happens to you, instead of saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened to me, say, I'm happy this happened to me. Because what happens is, a great book, I forgot the author's name, but A Man Thinketh. A man becomes what he thinks about, is essentially the whole premise of the book. So if you constantly think about how life is trying to beat you down, guess what you're going to become? You're going to become a victim. And guess what, guys? Hate to break it to you, no one likes a victim. No one likes a complainer. We all know them. You might be one of them. But if you didn't realize when you start talking and complaining, people are thinking to themselves, well, this guy just shut up. He's never got anything positive to say. I feel bad about myself. And this guy complaining, making me feel worse. When something bad happens, I challenge you. And I did start doing this, and my God, it is a transformation. At first, just try to reframe this. For example, my dog died. That sucks. But instead of saying my dog died, I'm saying I'm so grateful for the time I was able to spend with my dog. They both basically mean the same thing, except for one is interpreted by you differently, right? So the other one could be like, okay, so my dog died. Be like, I'm so happy I had time with my dog. I had an extra year. I didn't think I was gonna have a year. That's something good. Then from there, make it even better. The reality is he did pass, but he's no longer suffering, right? You just found two positives for something that's usually considered to be negative. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say this is easy, because believe me, I have lost loved ones that I care about very much, and I've had a very similar frame of thought, and it's not easy to do, but it's so much better than the latter. Now, this is number 11, and that is opportunity beats hard work. What I learned is, what I'm about to say is going to be very controversial, because a lot of people believe, you just got to grind, man, you just got to grind. But like I hinted on earlier, opportunity beats hard work every time. I think this was said by Warren Buffett. But basically, I'm pretty sure he said, Warren Buffett had a friend. Warren Buffett's friend was really smart and things like that. I believe this story is true, so feel free to fact check on this one. I'm pretty sure Warren Buffett had a friend who was smarter than him. Warren Buffett was actually dumber than the guy, which is a crazy thing. Warren Buffett, we all know him, the billionaire, one of the richest men in the world. Anyways, Warren Buffett, after he graduates, ends up working with one of the greatest investors of all time for free. And the other guy goes on to work for some little company. Now, Warren Buffett, even though he wasn't making any money, the knowledge he got from this guy was literally priceless. And he got that to then build one of the biggest hedge funds in the world. Unlike his friend just ended up fading into normalcy. He's forgotten. No one even knows the guy's name. But he didn't really do anything with his life, because he just took the traditional path, for the lack of a better term. So, to kind of put this also in my perspective, sales is hands down better than working a minimum wage job. But what's better than sales? Because the problem with sales is you still are trading your time for money, right? So the reality is you're always trading your time for money at a certain extent. But what I mean is you have to work a certain amount of hours to make crazy amounts of money. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. Long story short, what I mean is it's all about the opportunity. Instead of being a sales rep, you're better off being the business owner. Because even if you're working the same amount of hours, obviously the business owner has different kinds of problems. But most of the time, the business owner is going to be making more money than the sales rep. Why is that? Because they're in a better opportunity vehicle. They're able to move faster to where they want to be because they have more control of it, right? What I believe is what's even better than sales is trading. Like I mentioned earlier, I work less hours now, but I make more money from doing trading. Like right now, I really just sell just to fill up my time in the day. But if I wasn't like having a sales job, I don't really know what I would do. But my point is, I can live off trading. Like I don't have to work a sales job. So that's what I mean. I work less hours trading, but I make more money. Why is that? Because it's less. If you're in a boat, it's less about how hard you row and more about the boat you're in. You can be in a boat with a whole bunch of weaklings. So it's you're gonna be busting your butt. And the person next to you, they're all super strong and they're just all living the life. And they're just going and you're like, these guys are moving so fast. Number 12, and that is life is longer than you think. This is from Seneca on the Shortness of Life. It's I believe they're letters. The book is only like 100 and something pages. Yeah, 105 pages. This version is 106. And one of the things the book says in here is it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough if it's used wisely. The reason why I bring this up is because so many times I was told by people life is short. And I believe that that's a foolish perspective. I understand where they're coming from. But the reality is, if the average person lives to 77 and you live to 77, your life wasn't actually short, your life was actually average. But the reality is, what makes life short is people waste it. They are not using every second of the day to get to where they want to be. So when they die, they have regret because they continue to take the path that they didn't want. Now, I understand why people take the path that they don't want, but they feel like they have to out of obligation. I completely understand that frame of thinking. But the reality is, from my perspective anyway, we only get one shot at this. So, if I only get one shot, I'm going to try to do as much as I possibly can before I take my last breath. So, Seneca on the Shortness of Life, really the main thing I learned is you have to plan your days, because if you don't plan, you'll be wasting time. You'll be going through life aimless. You'll be going through life on the boat with no paddles. You have no control over where you're going. So you need to have some clear direction of where you're going so you don't waste your life. What makes things worthwhile is sacrifice. The harder something is to get, the more worthwhile it becomes. Just think about it. I'll just take sports, for example. Look at Tom Brady. Why is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback to ever live? Guess what? Because he was super good at football and nothing else. Like, don't get me wrong, Tom Brady's an extremely talented individual. He's good at a lot of things, but football, being a QB specifically, a quarterback, was his bread and butter. Why is that? Because he spent thousands of hours, becoming stronger, not only physically but mentally, and that transferred over to his game. And he sacrificed other things in his life to become so good at football that he becomes perhaps one of the greatest quarterbacks, if not the greatest quarterback of all time. I think I would definitely argue. So what I mean is, if you look at Tom Brady, wasn't an amazing singer, not an amazing dancer, not an amazing race car driver. He specialized in one thing. If you want to truly become valuable, you need to specialize in something that's high in demand, and you need to become the best. It's easier said than done, but it's exactly how it has to be done. If you can look at marriage, why is marriage perceived to be so valuable? The very notion of marriage is when you get married to this person, you are basically signing a document that says, I will not be with anybody else. You're sacrificing all the other people that you want to be with just to be with this one person. If that is not sacrifice, I don't know what is. And then 14, which is my last point, and that is something I learned from Tai Lopez in the 67 Steps. It's $67, and I would highly recommend you purchase it. No affiliate links, so if you want to look it up, look it up on YouTube. But one of the things that he said in there, which was really, I thought, profound, and he called it the 67 steps is the 67 steps to the good life and health, wealth, and happiness. But anyways, so in 14, one of the things he says is you're worth a damn factor. So you're worth a damn factor, according to Tai Lopez, is how often you're seeking knowledge, and that determines your growth. So what defines your worth a damn factor is how often are you reading books, seeking out mentors, watching videos. One of the, I believe to be probably one of the smartest men in history, Socrates, perhaps one of the pioneers in modern philosophy, as far as the Western world anyway. And he said, and he is surely smarter than me, the only thing I know is that I know nothing at all. That is so profound. But if you were to look at Socrates as an individual, literally all he did was going around he just asked people questions. He asked so many damn questions, it literally got him killed. Because the questions he asked were so perplexing that it made people feel like they were stupid. Because once you start to ask yourself so many questions, you start to come to the conclusion that realize you do know nothing at all. And it takes a certain level of humility to realize that. And once I realized that, I would say that's when my life really started to elevate. Because it's funny, because the other day, I was talking with my mentors, and he's like, dude, the reason why you can't learn this stuff is because you think you know it already. I was like, no, I don't. He's like, yes, you do. He's like, just listen to what I say. Do exactly what I say. He's like, I'm not trying to sound like a disciplinarian, but just do exactly what I say. Stop thinking. Just do it. And sure enough, what I do, I'm like, okay, let me come to this like a student. I know nothing at all. You're the master in this field. Let me just completely empty my mind. I did exactly what he said. And guess what? Things worked out. I don't think that's a coincidence. So there's also one more thing, which I forgot to mention, but that is all. And that is just, yeah, I'll just call it a day. I was going to bring up one of the things I learned from this book, Gone Girl, one of the best books I've read. I would say, I think I've read about 50 books this year. I don't really remember. If you want to know the books I read, you can go on my Goodreads. But I would say Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, Seneca on the Shores of Life, and Gone Girl have actually been the most impactful books I've read all year. Seneca on the Shores of Life, in the fact that he really helped me deal with death. I don't fear death anymore. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to die, but I don't fear it. Marcus Aurelius really just laid the foundation for my life as far as just the overall book of meditations. And Gillian Flynn, Gone Girl, even though this book is fiction, it's a story, a novel, I believe, it changed my perspective on how I see relationships. So I would say these have actually been the 3 most impactful books for me ever of 2024. And that's why I have it here. So hope you found some value from it. Really hope that you took at least one thing from this video. If you did, what's written is retained. So if there was something that stuck out to you in this video, please go down and comment it. I'd love to talk to you guys about this stuff. And